Mike Schmaltz here for GoXavier.com, joined by Billy Chambers, about to enter your second season as the head coach of the women's basketball team. It's been a busy offseason. We'll talk about that as you build up into your home opener here. But just your impressions from last year in terms of just Xavier and the Big East Conference, what are some of your takeaways if you had a chance to reflect on that season and coming into this one?
Oh, yeah. We spent a lot of time in reflection of, were we efficient in building our foundation? Were we efficient in making sure we were creating the culture that we wanted to stand strong so that we could build into a team that we want to be successful in the Big East, right? So spent a lot of time with the coaching staff, sitting down, picking through it. How do we want to be different? How do we want to be better? A lot of growth had to happen, and I think that started in the offseason with our 6 returners. They really got after it, had some real tough conversations about where they needed to grow in order to be impact players for us going forward, and how that they had a great responsibility to set the tone with a number of new players that we had planned to bring in. And then we got out on the road and went recruiting to bring in a roster that we think has an opportunity to truly compete at this level. So just really trying to increase the talent, continue to focus on the foundation. But I'm excited about year 2. I think, we have a fun group, and I think, it'll be exciting for everybody to watch the transformation and the build continue.
You get 16 players on this roster. 10 are going to be new, and I counted 10 countries are going to be represented on that roster. Just how busy was it getting all those players together and recruiting and communicating with them coming into the season?
Oh, yeah, it's so busy. You got to worry about all the time zones and figure out when to text, when to call, what time you're doing, all of those things. But again, our returners were a great group who really helped us in making sure that we showcase Xavier as a place where people want to come and play. They're our best recruiters. We say it all the time. So when these young ladies came on their visit, it was a no-brainer that they wanted to come and really join the work. They want to join the process, right? It's not, okay, year 2, the process of the build is over. They bought into the idea that they want to be a group that brings this program back to championship level, right? Brings it back to competing in the NCAA tournament, really put the face of Xavier back on the map because it was there before. So there's a lot of pride there. There was a lot of hard work that went into it. A lot of languages we're trying to learn and figure out what to put together. But we have a very, very fun group of young women, a very hardworking group of young women who have a bit of a chip on their shoulder and something that they want to prove. So it'll be a lot of fun.
You had international players on your roster at Iona, and I had a chance to talk with Joanne Persico, who's the volleyball coach at St. John's. She had an international group this year, and I asked her how she went about building communication and camaraderie amongst her team. And she said, at the end of the day, we all have to speak St. John's in that case. What are some of the ways you go about having this team speak Xavier at the end of the day?
Yeah, I love that. I'm going to have to steal that from Joanne. That's awesome. We all speak Xavier. Basketball's a unifier, though, right? They've all played. Many of them have played with teammates from other countries, other cultures, whatever the case may be, speaking different languages. So they are playing the same game, and that helps them learn to communicate in a way. We talk a lot, obviously, with our biggest group outside of our English-speaking group is our Spanish-speaking group, that they have to make sure that they are speaking English and don't rely on just kind of communicating with each other in Spanish, so that everybody is on the same page. And that's been really fun to watch them try to learn different words and all that type of stuff. But we're pretty intentional about the time we spend together, right? It's one-on-one lunches or one-on-one coffee. How are you doing outside of basketball? How are you getting settled in a new country? How's your family? How are you managing that time of they're in a totally different time zone. I need to make sure I connect with them, but half the time they're sleeping while I'm awake. Obviously, it's super hard for Phoebe, whose family's in Australia. But we are very intentional about spending that quality time and not even talking about the basketball, so we can make sure we're building the relationships that are going to be able to sustain the adversity, right? And then we do a lot of fun stuff together, your escape rooms, your all those different fun things that they like to do. And I think that is going to help build the chemistry with the group. And then we all speak basketball. We get on the court and we know that this is a group that wants to compete, and they get after it on the court every single day. So I'm excited to just see how they come together and kind of get past that challenging part of being from worlds apart. How do we connect, communicate, see them grow through that, and then just go out and compete?
What are some of the advantages of having international players on your roster in terms of, I know they've had experience a lot of times against older players, against grown women, and I know your Finnish player played with Taru Tukkonen, who was a great player here. What are some of the advantages of having those types of players on your roster?
I think that, having them have the experience of playing against some of our former NCAA collegiate players who are pros, right? So they are starting to get some of that physicality over there. They understand the game in a different way, right? From their youth, they're learning footwork. They're learning basketball 3-on-3 style pace. They're learning a little bit more of the details in that way, where we in the U.S. have a tendency to play more 5-on-5, get up and down, AAU, showcasing, all that type of stuff. And I think it just helps blend the game, right? You see a lot of high IQ decisions out of some of them where they've learned the game in a different way, and they help each other, right? Our domestic players are starting to make some of the reads that the internationals are making right off the bat, right? Our internationals are learning how to take a little bit of a bump and play with the physicality and understand the pace is different, the rules are different. So I do think the international flavor that you bring to the game, just the experience they have playing against older pros, having moved out of their house. You know, Lika has moved out of her house when she was 13 years old. Mm-hmm. She's had to become an adult more quickly. So the way they manage themselves, the way they manage their time, the way they, don't go through some of the bumps and bruises as, your typical freshman who's leaving mom and dad's house for the first time, that brings a different type of spin to how our women learn each other and learn how to be effective at this level.
Talk about the commonality in just playing the game. One of your favorite universal principles is defense. Will you change stylistically at all? I know you're rooted in defense probably again, but do you think stylistically with these international flair that you have this year?
Yeah, we're always going to be rooted in defense. We always want to make sure that sets the tone for us, that creates scoring opportunities. I do think we have a talented team who will put the ball in the basket, but I think like many of our other teams, our defense is ahead of our offense. So how are you going to close that gap, right? You've got to manufacture some points from your defensive intensity. I think we have a group that's going to be able to press a little bit more. My hope is that we're able to go a little bit deeper into our bench and stay fresh a little bit more, so that way we're rotating people in who can be a lot more disruptive in full court. If we could go 94 for 40, I'm all for it. But we definitely want to get after it on the defensive end, and then the hope is to see the true flow of what we've been trying to do offensively. Play a style that is ball movement, a lot of made threes, a lot of good layups at the rim, backdoor cuts, really moving the ball and playing at a good, healthy pace where you see points distributed across the board.
A little more time to prepare for this season, a little more run-up this year. What was different about just approaching the season in terms of having them maybe in the spring and being able to work with them a little more often?
Sure. It was nice to have the 6 in the spring for a full off season to really get to work and try to help grow their games and do a lot more individual style workouts. We spent a lot more time individually in the summer as well. Still, you're kind of in that space where with so many internationals, just visa rules wise, they're not allowed to be here in the summer if they're not full-time students. So many of them are still so new, just getting here at the start of classes. But it's been really nice to have the full group together, just putting in all the details, working through, trying to help them speak that same language of what do I say when I get beat off the dribble? What does the rotation look like? What does the help look like? What does that communication look like on the floor? So really just harping on all of our details defensively is where we wanted to get aggressive early, because we know that can really help us as we get settled into what the offense looks like.
What have been your impressions from, you had a couple of close scrimmages and also had the workouts. What have you seen so far as you build towards this opener?
I'd say there's a lot of growth from scrimmage 1 to scrimmage 2. Ideally, I don't love to scrimmage that early. I think we scrimmaged a week and a half after our first full practice, but that's just the way the calendar falls. But I think that there was a lot of growth between that first one and the second one, a lot more confidence. I was even saying to our staff today as we were getting started on the court that they seemed to play with a little bit more edge today, really getting after our practice squad a little bit more because they see themselves growing each day. I love the energy that they bring into the gym. Jordan Miller, who is one of our captains, came over from lacrosse, has the best voice, starts every practice with, "Come on, let's have a great day." And she just gets everybody going, right? And they get out there and they compete. They come into the gym with a purpose. They're pretty focused. I mean, obviously there's some mistakes and we're all over them about, the details that are going to be necessary for us to be able to compete in the Big East. Right, but they come with the right mindset every day, and that's just been fun to watch them grow, fun to watch them get after it, and it's just been awesome to watch the buy-in.
Let's get into the diversity of the non-conference schedule. It's going to be pretty interesting. Some good matchups there. You get the MAC with Miami, Bowling Green, Mercyhurst in its first year in D1. But your home opener is November the 8th, and April Phillips is going to come back. And for those who aren't familiar, April was part of the 2010 Elite Eight team here. How nice is it going to be to see a Xavier alumnus in a building leading a D1 program?
I think it's just awesome, and we tried to reach out to both April, to Special. We wanted, obviously bring them back. Couldn't work it out with Special in the Jacksonville program with, the calendar she was trying to put together. But it's nice to bring alum home, right, who have done something special here. We've had other alum come back and have a chance to speak with the team, and we just welcome everybody back to talk about what it means to wear the Xavier jersey, right? What does it mean to represent this university and this women's basketball program, and just to remind these young women, it's different when you hear it from them, right? Not just from the coaches who are harping on it, but I've been in your shoes, and I've put in the work, the blood, the sweat, the tears, to make sure that we can do something special. So they've been really impacted by that. She and April came back and chatted with them and spent some time with them. So to have her come in the gym and coaching on the other side, right? We've talked about an alum is coming back to do this, and to have hopefully a chance to work in her schedule to say a few words to the team, I think is just so impactful, so important, because she's where they want to be. She's doing what they want to do, and some of them want to coach, so she's doing currently what they want to do. So it's exciting to bring family home and to really continue to support this community and make sure that she's celebrated in her return to Xavier.
Crosstown Shootout will be here. You have Mackenzie Gibbons on your team. She is from Princeton High School here in Cincinnati, so it'll be fun to see her experience that in her own building in her first year here.
Oh, yeah, our lone Cincinnati native. We were super excited to lock down Mackenzie Gibbons. She is a special player who I think may have been a little bit under-recruited, went under the radar a little bit, but she's definitely going to do some special things here. So to see her have a chance to play in the Crosstown Shootout in front of everybody, in front of her family, is going to be fun to watch her really kind of just come into her own and really get after it on the court in that battle.
And right before Christmas, you're going to finish up in your non-conference. You're going to go out to California and to Berkeley, and it's the Raising the Bar Invitational multi-team event. Talk about the importance of that event and what it signifies.
Sure. I think, the diversity, right? Having all Black female head coaches in the tournament, right? Coaching their teams. Diversity is important, right? Representation is important, right? From a women's standpoint, it's being able to coach these young women and be that person that they could see themselves doing the same things, right? Being a Black woman as the leader of a program where there aren't that many, right? And making sure that is a visual that we put out there for young girls who maybe want to take that route, who are questioning whether they can do it or not. Just to be that example, I think, is so special, so important. And I'm just honored that they reached out and asked us to be a part of it this season.
You are fresh off Big East Media Day, so a couple new coaches in the conference this season. What did you learn maybe about the conference, and what do you expect out of it after Media Day?
I think it's going to be different, right? Like a couple new coaches, right? So many new players in the league. You're going to see a lot of growth from the returners who have played very, very well. But there's just so much new about the Big East this year that I don't even think I could put my finger on what it's going to look like. It's going to be a battle every night. That will never change. Big East basketball is grown woman basketball, and you better be ready when you take that court. But I'm excited about the new. I'm excited to see what it looks like, and we're just really thrilled to get out there and compete.
A couple of days before you get going here for real in the season, what are you going to work on preparing getting into the season in these final days?
What am I? Do you want the whole list of the practice plan? We've got so much to do. I was just looking at it this morning and saying, oh my gosh, there's no time left and we've got to get all this stuff in. But just continuing to stay the course, right? Stay even, make sure that we're doing all the teaching, make sure that we're focusing on the details, pointing out the areas where we have to grow, increasingly making it harder and harder for them to find success so that they're hungry and they're hunting for the success. But really staying true to what our identity is. We want to get after it defensively. We want to be disruptive defensively. We want to share the ball offensively. So if we're doing that every single day in practice, I think we're on the right road to success.
Coach, thanks for joining us. Certainly look forward to the start of the season. That's Billy Chambers, head women's basketball coach here at Xavier.